Hey ManCavians, this is Bob from DaBob's N-Scale ManCave, and today is part 2 of this White Pass and Yukon bridge build that I'm doing. It's time to put in the bottom pieces below that deck, and there's a lot of angled pieces, a lot of hand-cut pieces to put in, and so let's get to this assembly right now. Okay, the problem here is I need to glue these on the bottom here at an angle so that these are wider than the top. So I gotta spread it out. I'm gonna put these braces in here so I know how wide it's supposed to be. And how am I supposed to glue that in? Oh no. No. Man, what am I going to do? Aha. I'm going to use this frame. Then lay the things in there so I can have a third hand basically, and then all I gotta do is stick that in there and glue it in place. At least that's the plan, and hope it works. So what did I do? How did I make those? I basically marked it off on the template. This is the only time I really used the template to actually measure, and I used my chopper to cut those pieces in half. And it was a 24-inch piece, and now I have a perfect 45-degree angle, or almost 45-degree angle, and I need to get that flat on all those pieces. Now when I lay it down here in the template, got it all lined up, you know, getting ready to glue it down, you know, I'm almost ready, but I'm not quite. I need to sand down the edges because this thing is going to be leaning to the outside, so I have to, you know, basically get that flat part there a little bit more angled, you know, a little bit mitered, you know, off to the side, just a little bit. That's all you need, so it lays flat when you glue it down. Just use some 60 grit sandpaper, and it comes right off. Pretty easy. Basswood, you know, a little bit stronger. And I'm supposed to glue it together and end up looking like this with an angle. And so when I lay that on the base, it'll lean out to the side and stay glued a lot better. As you can see, it just you know, works pretty good. Use some Gorilla Glue and just glue the ends together, and you're ready to go. But wait, when you're using your template, you don't want it sticking to the paper, so I use some Scotch tape right there in the bottom, so any glue that drips out won't stick it to the paper, and I can pick it up and easily move on to the next step. And that looks good. And you let it sit for 30 minutes. Now you need to kind of put this in place and glue it. So I marked off where I wanted my ends to meet up. It's not going to be perfect, guys, it really isn't, but try and get it close. And I put the first stringer in there to keep it in place. Those are angle cut to fit in there, and made a like sort of little teepee on the inside there to fit in nice and snug. And then I glued in the brace going across. Now I have to put in the braces in between each of those triangle sections, and I use a level, a nice 90-degree straight edge, and figure out, do I have that level? Because I want it to be in the same spot on both sides. I measured it based off the yellow lines on my template that you can see there crossing the green lines. I wanted a brace right there at that intersection in the green and yellows. So measure it off, make your marks, and use your chopper to cut off your sections, my 60 grit sandpaper, and make some angled, you know, angled edges there. Because what I'm doing is I'm putting in that first set of stringers, or bents basically, going down from the top of the bridge to the bottom. And so now I know my angle on the bottom of the bridge, and now I have to have that angle down so it lays flat on the top of the bridge, which is actually on the bottom, so it's all upside down, guys. So I just turn it sideways, make sure you have it oriented correctly, and if you mess up, you can always use that piece for a shorter section later. And now I have a little bit of an angle there, so it will glue just right in the right place. Do a little test fit and check whether or not it is going to line up at 90 degrees. And so I use that little tiny magnet thing. You can get these, it's like a welder's magnet for holding metal together as you kind of put it in place, and they work really good for modeling too. And in this case, it was an easy 90-degree section to check my angle, and that looked good, and I'm ready to glue it down. Put glue on both ends. I put it down in place so it lines up with the cross bracing on the deck, and put it in place and held it there. And the glue will keep it there pretty snugly, and just let it dry. Just keep on moving to the next pieces, and clean up your glue that is too much. So don't put a lot of glue on there. You don't really need a lot. And then work on the other side as well. So I basically would work from one end and then do the opposite end as well. So I got everything just lined up where I wanted it to be, and it looked, symmetrical. I knew that I was done when I did both sides. And you can see it's starting to come together, and always check your angles. You don't want it to be crooked. That doesn't look right. In this case, now I have all those pieces on the triangle sections on the outside installed. Looking a little bit more like a cantilever bridge structure, but we got a long way to go. Lots more pieces to go. So I took a little clamp and a piece of wood, and I'm going to put some bracing in between each of the bents right there, and you cut them all to fit. And you don't have to cut, do any angle sanding or anything like that on those pieces, because they just fit right in there, and away you go. Now you can keep on going to the next section, doing the same method as you did the first one. I started in the very middle of the bridge with that first section, so I'm working toward the outside. By the way, you get these pieces, they got the barcodes on them from when you buy them from the hobby shop. Sand them off. Put 60 grit sandpaper works really well, and basswood. You can just get that off because it just shows up on stain and paint and stuff like that later, and you don't want it on there. There you go. It's all clean. Now this is 1/16 by 1/16 pieces, and I'm putting in some cross bracing in the center. So I'm working from the center outward, because that's going to be the easiest. Don't want to do it from the outward inward, because then your hands can't fit in there in the middle sections. So I glued them in place, and I put a little glue on the crossing part of it too. And as you can see, I've got from the bottom one all the way at the top, and all three sections. I keep the bracing crossing at the same places, so the wood's on the left side is going one way, and the wood on the right hand side is going the other opposite way. And then you just keep on going one section at a time, putting in your cross bracing, the big pieces, going between each half, and then all the structural cross bracing on each of the bents. So you're basically building bents into this whole thing all in one piece. And it made it a lot easier for me to assemble all these pieces. Now on this one I also put in the cross bracing on the bottom of the bridge between each half. You can see that. That's all you really have to do right there, and you have it done. Now you got to do your sides. According to the template, I fit in all these pieces to do the side cross bracing, or the side bracing, and put all those pieces in. I didn't get a lot of video of putting that in because it's pretty much redundant, but cut all the pieces to the form just like on the template and where they're supposed to go. And then it ends up looking like this. The bridge is almost complete. There's a few more things to do on it, but most of the superstructure is completed underneath and ready to well, go on to the next step, which is fire barrel decks. There are 5 of these going to be going on to the bridge, and I scratch built each one of these just for the ambiance and look of a wooden structure bridge. You got to have fire barrels. So I basically took the 1/16 by 1/16 inch pieces and slid them in just like I did in the first part to space them. I used the same thing to space how big my bridge is going to be. Glued them down to the bracing on the inside there, slid the pieces in, made sure they're all lined up and even, put some glue on the end, and put in that end piece. Gotta have patience on that one, that's for sure. As you can see, oh, look, gotta get on there. Glue down your tops, lay down all the boards going across the deck to actually build your deck. And, you know, small fingers really helps, maybe tweezers even, but I didn't use them in this case. And there you go. It's all set up. Put in your guardrail legs and the sides. And then you can put in that cross piece in between them. This is where I had to use the needle nose pliers to make that fit in there just right. So, yeah, sometimes it's just hard to do. And then, you can't have the deck falling off. You got to put some bracing down below as well. This is where you do have to sand some to get it to fit the right angle going to the deck and the bridge. And then finishing touches, you put some barrels on there, or at least one. In this case, I'll probably put 2 barrels on because it's like a triple wide deck and you kind of want a big one. And there you go. Here's the mostly finished construction of this bridge. I have somewhere over 1,500 pieces of wood hand cut and assembled in this bridge. I'll get you real numbers later when I add them all up. But right now we're mostly done. I do have a couple pieces to put down on the end. And here it is. This thing is freestanding all by itself. And it's awesome. Stay tuned for part 3. So there you go. That's been this build of part 2. Up to this point, it hasn't been stained yet, and I really should have done that earlier, as you probably already have heard already before. But it is now mostly completed, and next step is getting the stain on it, and a few other things as well. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below, ring the bell, and if you haven't subscribed already, subscribe and you'll get notified when the part 3 comes out. So happy model railroading, guys. Stay off those tracks.